Most of the violence in the film is your fairly typical comic book violence of people being tripped over and slapped and kind of, pushed around and that sort of stuff. But there are a few scenes that might frighten or concern some smaller children. One of those scenes is toward the end. There's a scene where a car or a truck falls off a bridge, or is driven off a bridge, forced off a bridge even, and goes underwater. And there is one animal in particular who is trapped inside a cage, and it looks very much like this animal is not going to escape. There's a few other animals that jump into the water to try and help with the rescue. I won't tell you if they're successful or not because I don't want to ruin it for you, but there is a strong feeling at one point that at least one of these characters is going to drown. There's almost a little goodbye moment between two characters, as though they're saying, well, this is it, this is the end. So that might be a little bit upsetting for some kids. In another scene, there is one character who's very sweet through the whole film, and this again is toward the end, and then finally kind of lets go and karate kicks a lot of other animals and basically wipes out about 30 or 40 other animals. So yeah, she goes a little bit psycho for a moment there. Another scene is in the middle of the film. Our kind of heroes, our main characters are, well, they're introduced to a possible initiation ceremony into a kind of gang, if you like. And part of this initiation is to be sort of bitten by a snake. Now, this snake is enormous. It's absolutely massive, this giant cobra kind of thing with this incredibly large and scary looking fang. And the idea is this fang needs to puncture the hides of these animals. So if you have a fear of snakes, then you're not going to like this scene. Also, there is a sense of tension when these animals look like they're going to have to actually be hurt in order to join this gang. And there's a bit of talk leading up to this scene about killing, the idea of animals killing their owners. So just keep that one in mind as well. That's kind of pretty much it. I mean, most of it is, like I said, very sort of slapsticky, falling off things, falling over things, the sort of stuff that your kids won't even notice. It's, what we would call violence. It just seems like chaotic behaviour, if you like. In terms of blood and gore, there is one sort of small shot. It's supposed to be a joke where there's some red crayon marks which are meant to resemble blood. It's quite funny. And as I said, there's this snake kind of fang which looks like it's about to pierce our animal friends. One thing I should say is there is actually a death scene in the film. It's presented in a comic way, but it's kind of brutal at the same time. A particular character is crushed. Now, this is a character that we don't particularly warm to necessarily, and you don't feel particularly upset that it is being crushed, but there are jokes made upon jokes about this. So basically the animal is sort of crushed, and then a wall falls on it, and then it blows up in an explosion. So if there is any question that this animal has survived, then by the end of this little sequence, then you certainly know that this animal is dead. And there's some kind of comic, again, grief which follows this event. So yes, there is a death scene in the film, which is quite rare for animated movies. Moving on to sex and nudity. So there isn't any sex in the film. Now, interestingly, in the Australian classification rating anyway, there is a flag. They've flagged it for nudity. And to be honest, I really can't work out why. The only thing I can think of, there's a little bit of flirting between two characters, and one character kisses another character. But in terms of nudity, there is one scene when a cat turns its backside toward the camera and you see its bumhole. It's a cat. We are familiar with cats and the way they raise their tails, and you get a good look at their rear parts. That's the only thing I can think of that might have been considered nudity by the board. Other than that, I have absolutely no idea. There's a scene, moving kind of linking this to the drug and alcohol section. There is a scene where some animals eat too much meat, basically, and they end up eating so much that they begin to hallucinate a little bit. And there's this trippy sequence where there are some sausages dressed up in bikinis and things like that, and they're kind of dancing around. It's quite a funny and very weird scene. But again, would I call that nudity? No, but I'm reaching here because I'm trying to work out why the board has flagged this. But yeah, there is a flag on the Australian Classification Board rating of this film for nudity. beats me. If you know, or if you think you know what it is in this film, if it isn't the cat's bum, then let me know, because I really can't work it out. So with the drugs and alcohol, yeah, that's the only sort of scene I'd link to the drugs, is these characters overeat and hallucinate. At the beginning of the film, one character does talk about a time when he is fed a pill, and then he wakes up and he's flying. And what he's actually referring to is being given a sedative before he's transported by aircraft somewhere. So he sees it quite differently in his brain of what's actually happened to him. So his memory sounds like he was tripping, but we have to sort of understand that he was given a sedative, like, or some sort of sleeping pill or something. So you might get some questions about that one from the kids, not really understanding why this dog is talking about, taking a pill and then he feels like he's flying. That is pretty much it. Offensive language, well, no, there's none. There's a little bit of name calling through the film. Again, it's that funny, fairly harmless stuff. So I don't think there's too many issues there either. Overall, it's a fairly easy film to watch. It's fairly accessible for the entire family. The only thing I will say is that what got to me through the film is Kevin Hart's voice. Now, I actually like Kevin Hart. I really usually enjoy him, but he plays quite a screechy character in this film. And to be honest, by the end of it, I was just kind of a bit tired of hearing his screechy, barking, manic voice. So of all the things that, it kind of bothered me about this film, forget about the content, it was that screechy, that constant noise and screech on the soundtrack. So, maybe you won't mind it, but I didn't like it. And the kids might find that a little bit overbearing as well, because it's just so loud and constant. As I said, it's a pretty, kid-friendly, family-friendly film. Very simple plot, very basic, very easy to follow. Beautiful animation, so it's worth going to see just for how majestically New York City is presented, particularly from the eye line, the eye view of the animals. Obviously, if your children have any concern about certain animals, if they have any fears or discomfort towards certain animal species, then by all means check the website, which is cinemum.net, where I've got a full breakdown or a full list of the animals that you'll see on screen. But other than that, if you haven't seen the film already, if you're like us on this side of the planet where we are still yet to waiting to see the film open, then do let me know what you think of The Secret Life of Pets.